Today's video is brought to you by Empire Abrasives. Whether you're shaping, forming, or cutting, trimming, these are the different things you need to be able to do in order to fabricate whatever project it is that you're working on. Empire Abrasives is a great place to start in order to get the abrasive discs and cutoff wheels and stuff that you're going to need in order to build the stuff that you want. And one of my favorite things that I like about Empire is that it's super budget friendly. Speaking of which, if you want to save a little bit extra money on your next project, definitely go to Empire, but use my coupon code DIRTLifestyle for an extra 10% off. I just got back from a huge camping trip with my son and I got to catch my breath, get some fresh perspective, and now I have some fresh ideas that we can apply to this trailer project. In the last episode, we explored why it makes sense to reuse an old trailer instead of building one from scratch, and then we took and we modified this free-to-me Harbor Freight trailer to try to give it some sort of a backbone and make it rigid enough to successfully convert it into an overland trailer. This week, I want to build our walls. So we're going to take this quote-unquote utility trailer, we're going to build the walls, maybe, depending on the kind of time we have, we might mount the the rooftop tent on it. We'll see, but I at least want to get a frame. I'd like to get some walls tacked on there. And I actually came up with some ideas this weekend as I was sitting around the campfire. So it would be nice to have two different heights, basically your trail height and then your camp height. And I don't want to have any sort of like tubes that slide into each other. That's a really common way to do this. So once you get to camp, you can basically, like if you have two square tubes that are fitting inside of one another with a pin going through, then you could just push up the whole rooftop tent and now you're higher, which is nice. But with four joints like that, filling full of dirt, it's going to end up getting really nasty and really hard to push up and down yourself, especially with it being a 200-pound rooftop tent. And then you have to have like even force on all four sides so it doesn't bind. So I'm not interested in doing that. There's another way we could do this, and that's going to be airbags. And in the future, I might replace these coils with airbags because this is a Land Rover axle, and this was made to go right to a set of airbags. So that would be maybe something we could do in the future, but I'm not at that point yet either. However, if we just drive onto a set of ramps that make it taller, it's going to be taller. I know that sounds just like such a simple concept, but I don't know why. This weekend I was like, man, maybe I could make it to where this will be shorter while we're driving down the trail, which will make it to where it's not going to be as top heavy. If I could like drop it 6 inches lower than I was initially going to build it. And then once I get to camp, just drive up on some ramps that are 6 inches. So I have these ramps called Easy Jacks, and you just drive on it, and then boom, it's 6 inches right here at the end. Now, if this isn't tall enough, I could always build my own set, and I might. But for now, I'm just gonna plan on bringing a set of these with me, and we'll see. Even with me using these, I might build my own set anyway. I'm interested in building stuff like this. Actually, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see something like that homemade. But anyway, you can see where I'm going with this. So now what my plan is to build it a little bit shorter so it's not as top heavy when you're going down the trail. And I'm going to make it to where we can basically just drive on something taller whenever we need the extra height. I think the easiest way to make sure that we have a squared up trailer is going to be use a combination of levels and tape measures. So the first thing we're going to do is level out this trailer and take all the weight off the suspension. I'm going to use 2 levels on each piece of material to make sure that I can level it out as close as possible on 2 different axes. Then I throw a couple light tacks just to hold everything in place and use a series of magnets and clamps to hold everything together. They'll give me a roughly cobbled together skeleton that we can later mount our shell. I made a little bit of a mistake here, but I didn't want to waste any material. So what I should have done is split my 45-degree angle in half and cut that angle at a 22 and a 22. Then the mating surfaces of these two angles would have met a lot cleaner. But instead of wasting material, I'm just going to scab in a little 90-degree section, weld it together, and then clean it up with an angle grinder. The skeleton of this thing is built out of 3x1 by 16 gauge rectangular tubing. And the reason I chose that is I wanted to I wanted to be able to save as much weight with the skeleton as possible, but still be structurally sound enough to trust the weight of this thing. And I have no doubts at all that this is strong enough to trust the weight. The biggest caveat is that when you go as thin as 16 gauge, if it takes an impact, you've destroyed the structural integrity of that tube. So we need to protect it. I'm almost embarrassed to say how thick we're going. We've got to put some thick skin on this thing because I got to be real with myself. I'm going to roll this. We're going to put it on its side. I'm just hard on parts. At the very least, it's going to be constantly getting hit and inundated by tree branches and stuff like that. So we're going to use 1/8 inch for the walls, which is wild. That is way thick. But again, I have to be real. I got to think, how comfortable am I rolling this over with a 16 gauge wall? Not comfortable at all. How about, 12 gauge? I mean, still pretty uncomfortable. I don't want to have to rebuild this if I roll it over, or let's just say every time I roll it over. It could roll over more than once. I'm just hard on parts. So we're going to do 1/8 inch because I know how strong 1/8 inch can be. And when we marry the 1/8 inch and we weld it to this skeleton, it's going to be a really nice rigid box. And it's going to be able to take an impact. That 1/8 inch is going to be able to take a really solid impact without even denting. So even though it's going to destroy some of the vinyl wrap that we're going to use on this, it's going to be able to be a strong structure that we'll be able to use for a long time to come. So the next step that I want to do is I want to start to finish weld this skeleton, and I want the skin to help keep things from warping. Any of you that have welded something like this know that it's easy to slowly turn your project into a banana. So in order to resist that, I'm basically going to weld little areas that I won't be able to reach once the skin's on, and then I'll put the skin on, and wherever you put the skin is going to help keep things from warping and twisting because that 1/8 inch skin is going to be super strong. As I'm working, I'm thinking about how I want to finish the rest of the layout on this trailer. I mean, a lot of this is still up in the air, where the different doors are going to go, where I want to put any sort of like drawers or cabinets. And because of that, I kind of changed gears and I decided to start working on just the stuff that I know. I know that I want to put the roof on, and I know I can put that rear lower panel on, but because I don't exactly know where the rest of this is going to go yet, I decided to move on and start building a roof rack. As you can see, I only put 2 panels on. I changed my mind about putting all the panels on yet because the layout is changing in my head. As I'm working on this and I'm starting to see different ideas come to life, like where I would put doors and things open, it's all kind of changing and forming, and so I want to leave that loose for now. As you can see, I put a tongue box on it just to see how it would look, and so I'm kind of thinking about moving the spare and using a tongue box, whereas originally I wasn't going to use a tongue box. So we'll see. All that's up in the air. I'm going to deal with that in the next episode. For now, we have a 15-gallon water tank that we can mount. And what I did, originally it was going to go across here, but I don't want to cut that main beam in order to fit it. And I want it to be low. It's going to be under the chassis. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to orient it this way. And I checked. If I fully compress the suspension, it doesn't hit. The only thing that's going to hit is there's a little bracket right there that I'm going to cut off. We're going to, in a future video, we'll cut all the brackets we don't need off of this, and we're going to modify this axle to be a trailer axle. But for now, I at least know that our tank can be mounted there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to mount a tank there, and then I want to build a battery box because I've got this big old battery that I had sitting outside, and it'll work for mocking up a dual battery box. So I'm gonna put that on this side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have really low weight, all 15 gallons of water. It's gonna be nice and low on that side. And then on this side, we'll have two big old batteries that are also gonna hang underneath the chassis. And the whole point is that we want, and we're gonna armor it all, don't worry, it's all gonna have skid plates and stuff. The whole point is to keep lots of weight down low. We wanna make sure that this can resist flipping as much as possible, because once we mount the tent up there, that is gonna make a big difference as to where the weight is influencing the handling characteristics of this trailer. When I bought this tank, the original plan was to build some sort of a frame to hold the tank in place and then skin it with some kind of a skid plate system. But once I started to check it out and actually mock it up, I decided that it would be way easier to just combine both of those ideas and build a skid plate that is also the mounting plate. This means I can use less material, I can mock it up even faster, and even save a little bit of money in the process. I have to end the video. Well, I don't have to end the video. Mentally, I need to end the video. I just made a $2,500 mistake. So this one lens, this is my favorite lens by far. It's Canon RF 2.8, 15 to 35, outstanding lens for YouTube stuff. It's wide angle. And I dropped the camera and so I broke the lens. So I'm just not in a good like mental mood to be creative. I'll probably pick back up tomorrow or the day after, and I'll start to continue this budget trailer. It just got a lot less budget for me, but it's the cost of doing business, I guess. The glass is always half full, so even though my stomach hurts and I want to throw up, I'm thankful that for the amount of content that I put out and the amount of money that I've invested in all this gear, this is like the first really big loss for me. So I'm gonna end the video. So I guess here, right now, I'll cut some B-roll of what the tank looks like. It fits in there, it's high clearance. It looks pretty rad. I'm really excited about the direction that this project is going. I think that even though I have to cut this video short, I think we made a lot of progress here. You can see the direction that we're heading. I've got so many cool little things that I wanna add to this trailer in the next couple of videos of this series, and I can't wait to share them with you. But right now I need to go in and tell my wife what just happened, and we need to decide how to move forward, because SEMA is in like a week and a half, and this is like my most important lens. So anyway, if you want to help support the channel, you can go to thedirtlifestyle.com. My wife just informed me this morning that our new t-shirts and sweatshirts just went live today. Holiday season's coming up. These shirts are awesome. Her and the guy that is helping us with our website did such a great job designing these shirts. I promise you, these are the coolest shirts we've had so far. So check those out. If you want to help support us in other ways, we have a Patreon account, and that is linked on our website as well. So we do a lot with our Patreon community. It is great. The episode that I just launched, so I try to do a video a week for Patreon outside of YouTube. And the video that I just did this week was all about firearms. It was about off-road firearms. So I'm not gonna do a firearms video for YouTube, But one of the nice things about Patreon is I can do cool videos like that and not worry about what the algorithm thinks or is going to do, because it's an unlisted video. It's a video that's just for the Patreon community. So if you're into that kind of thing, or if you want to come wheeling with me, join that community, because that's where all that stuff takes place. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at Dirt Lifestyle Nate. We'll see you next time.